Follow us. We are on the right path to retirement, the podcast here with Jimmy Lynn, president, founder, and financial advisor of Right Path Wealth Management out of the Las Vegas area and thereabouts. Jimmy and the team would love for you to give them a call, 702-805-7000. And, of course, you can set up the complimentary consultation to look at your financial portfolio, your retirement plans at rightpathwm.com. Now, Jimmy, you talked about in our last episode, a lot of the people that you work with are not making the phone jump off the hook with all this recent volatility and tariff news because of the importance of the written plans. We're going to get into it with you today about that retirement income plan and having things pointed in the correct place, especially when things get a little haywire with the markets. But before that, Jimmy, first off, how are you? And then how is it with this freshman year of high school coming to an end for your kids?
It's wild, yeah. That we're at that end point for the freshman year, and it's flown by. But luckily, it's gone more smoothly than I could have expected, or as smoothly as you could expect. But yeah, I mean, at the recording of this, or when this comes out, my kids are essentially going to be done with their freshman year. And,
wow, this early.
It seems fast, right? I think I remember chatting with you about it in the fall, and it felt like a while ago, but I mean, it's flown by.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're good and they're doing well. My son's discovered his passion of volleyball.
Okay.
And he's doing phenomenal in that. And then my daughter, she did tennis in the fall, but now she's in track and field. She's a runner at heart. She plays a little tennis, but she's really a runner. She's done really well in track, trying to overcome a slight injury, but both of them are doing well, and they're taking courses in school that are way beyond what I've ever taken. So they're doing well, and I'm happy to hear it.
Over the years, have they enjoyed being in the same grade or even in the same classes? I mean, in high school, you get a little more diversified. Has that gone okay?
Yeah, what? Surprisingly, it has. We made a conscious effort in elementary school to keep them together, honestly, because we're slightly lazy. We didn't want to have to deal with two different types of school projects, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I shouldn't say lazy, like we were efficient, right? So that's what we were looking at.
Bingo.
So we kept them together. I think the fact that they're different genders, so they kind of gravitated to their own friends, probably worked out, but they always had each other. So, I mean, they've developed a great relationship that my wife and I, we love seeing, because they don't fight a lot. They really get along well, but they still have their own group of friends. But yeah, it wasn't a tough transition, and they didn't freak out when they had to start separating in classes, and they're doing just better than I could have expected. So we're really, really proud of them.
That's really cool. I'm happy for you and your wife and them too. That's really neat. Now, they're far away from retirement, but I know they know the importance of a plan. At school, they usually make you keep some sort of written or typed agenda, so you remember to do your homework, remember to turn in this project, that kind of thing. Well, I hate to say it, but we're not really supposed to get off of the plan as we get older. I think I've been pretty bad at keeping one sometimes, but especially as you're planning for a potential period of 20 to 30 years of your life where you don't have a steady job, something has got to get put to work, and that has to be your money, and that money is not going to go work by itself. It needs to know what to do. Well, what to do is the plan. So let's talk about that, Jimmy, and just the idea of why people really need a written retirement income plan.
Well, I mean, I don't think we can emphasize this enough, how important a retirement income plan specifically is. I mean, Doug, would you go into the Super Bowl? You've done great during a regular season. First off, the answer is no. I wouldn't go into the Super Bowl. Right. But okay, yes. But let's create a scenario in which you actually had the ability to play in the National Football League. You were on a great team and your team made it to the Super Bowl, right? You've done the hard part, right? You've gone through the playoffs. You've done the hard. Now you're at the Super Bowl. Would you go into the Super Bowl with no plan?
No.
I think that's, that's obvious the answer there, right? And that's what I tell a lot of the prospects that come to a lot of our events, is that the reason why they come to our events is not because they're looking for a free dinner or because they want to go to the library just because they have nothing to do on a Wednesday night. The reason why they go to our events is because the moment that they're in, typically the people that we work with are kind of going to be within 5 years of retirement or just into retirement. I tell them, and it's no exaggeration, that this is their Super Bowl, because they've worked for the last 20, 30, or 40 years doing all the right things, working hard, diligently putting money away in their retirement accounts for this moment. So I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say this is their Super Bowl. And the decisions that they make over the next, 1 to 3 years can really change the trajectory of how successful their retirement is. And that's why this is the moment where they have to create that income plan. You said something on our last podcast that stuck with me is that, when you climb Mount Everest, you do it with a Sherpa, right? You could have trained all your life for that mountain. You've climbed mountains all around the world. But when you tackle the biggest mountain, you go up with a Sherpa because those Sherpas know how to navigate that and they have that expertise, right? Well, Doug, I'm sure you know this, or if you don't, I'll let you know, is that, did you know that more people die going down the mountain than going up the mountain? Have you heard that one?
I've heard that before, and it's astounding to me, but actually, since gravity is at your back when you're going down, so to speak, it makes sense.
Yeah, there's just a lot more unknowns going down the mountain. And if you kind of do an analogy, going up the mountain is really those accumulation years. That's that 20, 30, or 40-year period where these individuals are saving for retirement, doing all the right things. Those are the accumulation years. And if we've talked about in the past, those accumulation years, there's not a lot of planning going on around. You're just stuffing away money and market goes up, market goes down. It doesn't impact your plan that much. But once you're near that top of that mountain, that's when the danger zone comes into play. Right when you're a few years from retirement and the market tariffs come out and your 401k goes down 30%, guess what? Retirement is going to look a lot different, right? Your planning as far as the things that you're going to do are going to change if the market goes down as you're retiring. And so it's important to have a couple things with regards to an income plan. Number one, you need to make sure that money is available to you. That's the first thing, is having a preservation strategy to preserve a portion of your assets that you've worked so hard to save so that that money is available to you. The second piece, and equally important, is have a distribution plan. So that's coming down the mountain, right? How do you distribute those assets in a way that will ensure that that money will last, hopefully for the rest of your life? Well, there's a couple ways you can do that. And I've heard another advisor say this before that made me laugh, because most people's plan is basically to save up a pile of money and then just pick at it as needed, right?
Pick off the pile,
Pick off it. And I've heard it referred to as the booger plan, right? You're just picking at it, right? Which makes me laugh because, you have to draw attention to that. And that's really not a plan. Because if you had that plan right now, say you're in retirement and you were planning to take a couple of trips this year, and then these tariffs went in play, and now that account that you were going to pull money from is down 20, 30%. Well, guess what? When you pull money out to take that cruise, you've just locked in some losses that you're never going to get back.
Right.
What I tell people all the time is I do not want those vacations that you were planning on, or those experiences that you're going to have with your kids or your grandkids, or those new hobbies that you've been waiting all your life to do. I don't want those experiences tied to what's going on in Washington or what's going on, in taxation or overseas or anything tied to the market, right? So by having an income plan where you preserve a bucket of money, and then that you can get a lifetime income stream from this bucket of money, and no matter what the S&P 500 is doing or what's going on in taxes or political things overseas, that paycheck keeps coming in just like it did when you were in your working years. When you have that type of plan, then you're at ease, right? Funny enough, there's a lot of times when I'll have prospects come in, and there's a lot of times there's two types of prospects. There's that person that comes in and for some reason, maybe they're a government worker and they have their Social Security. So they actually have a couple of different pension from their government work. Then they have their Social Security. And sometimes they're coming in with between the individual and their spouse, a married couple, they may have up to $15,000 a month of just fixed income streams coming in. But they, Doug, they might have $200,000 in their retirement accounts. Then I have another prospect that may come in and they may have $3 million in their 401k, but no pension. The person that looks more at ease, you may be surprised, is that person that has $200,000, but they know where every single paycheck is coming from, versus the other scenario where they may have $3 million in a 401k, but they're also petrified of what's going on in the market, right? Because when there's a 10% drop in a $3 million account, it hurts a lot more than if there's a 10% drop in a $200,000 account and you have $15,000 coming in from your pensions. So what a lot of people do is they create their own pension, right? You basically carve off a piece of, say, your retirement accounts, because we all know pensions have gone away, right? Everything has kind of shifted responsibility for retirement savings to the employee. So in that scenario where someone's coming in with, $1.5, $2 million, whatever the number is, right? They come in with a bucket of money. You really got to take those couple steps. Number one, preserve a portion of those assets. And then number two, create your own pension from that. So you know that for the things that you want to do in life, you know where that money is coming from. And then anything else that you have outside of your income stream, you're probably going to let that kind of survive the market, because ultimately we hope that in the long run, that portion of your portfolio will grow. But that's truly a plan instead of that booger plan. We're just kind of picking away at it, right? Because you're never supposed to do that. And so I think that the first thing, it's really critical when you look at an income plan, is make sure that you have something that you can rely on. And then beyond that, you want to make sure that it's efficient, right? So you're maximizing. There could be scenarios where you want to maximize your Social Security by possibly delaying. There could be some tax benefits to that. So that's overall tax planning. But that coming down the mountain is really identifying things like, how do I maximize my income with what I've saved for so long? And then how do I do that in the most efficient way? And that's through like taxation and things of that nature. But that's an overall income plan that can survive the test of time.
So someone's hearing this right now and they're like, hey, I don't have a plan, or they realize that maybe the plan they're with is not the best one. They want a second opinion, or maybe they just want to see if they could do any better than the plan they already like. What is that first call do you like, Jimmy, and how do they get in touch?
Well, most people, because we're local here in Las Vegas, we're still old school. We like to do face-to-face. People want to come into our offices. We have offices in Summerlin as well as in Henderson. They can reach out 702-805-7000 and get on my calendar for a complimentary consultation. And we'll sit down, look at your paperwork, identify kind of where those holes are and where we think you can improve upon, and, provide some education on what's going on and why you'd want to make certain adjustments to your plan. Or they can just pick up the phone and we can do a Zoom or a phone call as well. But I find that most retirees, they really want to kind of look you in the eye and shake your hands and kind of get to know us as a firm. So reach out 702-805-7000 to get on our calendar. And you can go to our website to learn more about us, rightpathwm.com.
rightpathwm.com. Do that, or call 702-805-7000. Get in touch with Jimmy Lynn and the team. And maybe it's just a second or even a third set of eyes. Make sure you have the plan that you need. There may be a rock that Jimmy and the team sees that hasn't been turned over yet. There may not be, and you may be just fine. So find out, though. You don't know until you find out. And if you have no plan, it starts with you. Change starts at home. You have to get off your duff if you want to have to plan. And frankly, it's a hard thing to come up with on your own. That's why it's great to have someone like Jimmy Lynn who can look at it and help you out. Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for spending the time here, walking us through what a plan is, the fact that you not only need to have money available, but also a distribution vehicle for that money. And we look forward to learning more from you there, and hopefully more about good plans and less about boogers next time. All right. Although it paints the picture perfectly.
That's well said, Doug. Thanks a lot.
You got it there. We're just going to go to picking the pile as soon as we turn the podcast off. He is Jimmy Lynn, the president, founder, and financial advisor of Right Path Wealth Management. Thanks to our producer, Daniel Sallerson, for getting this stitched up and published and put out the show, and to the people that review this as well. And also to all of you listening, if you heard something that you think someone in your circle needs to know, send them the link. All of these shows are cataloged on Apple and Spotify, the other podcatchers, and on the media page as well at rightpathwm.com. And these episodes come out roughly every 2 weeks. And when I say roughly, I mean approximately, not that they're rough around the edges. Daniel is a smooth producer, okay? So for Jimmy and Daniel and all of you, I'm Doug Turnbull, and thank you so much for listening to the Right Path to Retirement podcast.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Right Path Wealth Management. Right Path Wealth Management is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Right Path Wealth Management are not subject to investment advisory requirements. Investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal. Any reference to the protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It's not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Right Path Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Right Path Wealth Management.